Sangye Chodan Soki Chonamba Janju Vadu Dami Yasuchi Dani Chushi Jive Sonamki Dola Penchu Sangye Rupa Sho Chodan Soki Chonamba Janju Vadu Dami Yasuchi Dani Chushi Jive Sonamki Dola Penchu Sangye Rupa Sho Chodan Soki Chonamba Janju Vadu Dami Yasuchi Dani Chushi Jive Sonamki Dola Penchu Sangye Rupa Sho.
다 진주의 자원이 등이 빼고는 들어왔어야 돼.
그 준주기 해야 돼.
그래서 주의다 시작하다 다디 그제 자원이 그때 쉬어갈 그때도
쉬어갈 주기 주식으로. So we're at verse 11, I believe. 주식으로.
네.
맞죠?
예.
다디 그 가르스나 주의다 시작한다니 제금 나서 들어왔다. 제발 나서 제발 이 재미 중에 지마도 스타간제 디가 빼건에 중에 디 세세 제거바 중에
So it gives examples here for why one should be patient.
다디 세나 지 중에도 수 시작한다서 버티수기다 장부기 소다바탄 지야르바 투수 세세 제소나 중에디 충레도 그래서 세세 맞에는 아니 중에디야 칠배 태도 그래서 제산다스 세세 자리기리 에세다 디제.
The point here is that if one tries to be patient with these difficulties that one meets with, then the suffering that they occasion becomes less. If, on the other hand, one does not cultivate patience, the suffering, unhappiness that one feels from them becomes greater. That's the essential thing here.
다디네 단지 단대때 빼고내봐. 다 전국권에 강라 쇠배 유지 차장 차다 룽소당 내다 징다 그래서라 다기 세레미치스티 메시베 지규야 말이스 대다 제는 네버 페스 메시베 제스나 강에도 수인도 좀바 메시베 제나니 디 never the children.
So be it one's suffering because it's too hot or too cold or meeting someone you don't like or you do like and so on and so forth, to the extent that one can't put up with it and one doesn't cultivate forbearance or patience for it, to that extent the amount of discomfort, unhappiness one feels increases more and more and more. So the examples are given, and then the meaning of it is this.
로당 배티들이 라라다지 차통나 바데 하버리 기규신 기규 예스데 미가실라 아니 말라도슬 타바비데 차라서바티데 란비 류레 차라서바티데 충어 통선나 그 바르데 방안 빼야 칠기기야 서바디 디나시 니 그 동해를 공부치기는 공부디야 칠피그레스. 베나티 라라세아티데.
So here where it says if some. So the sum here is this is the example the example for what, for how, if you get more and more used to being patient when meeting with something which you really don't like, then that patience gets stronger and stronger, that being the meaning. The example for that here is in this verse where it says some, and here the some is talking about this. You get a certain sort of, what do you call it, a soldier, a warrior, a soldier. And this soldier, as he or she is fighting, then gets wounded. And they see coming from their wound that they're bleeding. And the blood coming from the wound, as they start to bleed, doesn't actually make them lose their strength, but they are kind of really, what's the word? They really get enthused by it and work even harder. So that's the example.
Lala cha thona se. That sim de chung de sim de top chung de sugi. Ani rangi lule cha da ma se ma dong ne. Shengi lule cha dong de cha chung de tong so na. Ni kya la so ba tu ya res. Jaisa di sim gi na tempo me ba sim chung ne to res. De dharma se tu zamba lo chung se lo to chung de. Odi 로또 중에도 속이 생기 류에 차 통이 됐던 바람 개월라서 그래요. 지기야로 봐. 어디다 디야리 스트레스 주부지 심 때문에 제나 아니 약해니. 강 친구 체제야.
So the opposite to this, which is being talked about here, is the sort of person who never mind if they suddenly start really having cut themselves, start bleeding badly themselves. But if they see somebody else bleeding, it totally freaks them out. And they begin to go into a tizzy. And having gone into a tizzy, they can actually faint. So the point is that the mind, which can react to something like that, through getting used to it, as in the first example, can become so brave that it, seeing blood, seeing the bleeding, gets even stronger.
다들 조수기 동네 땅에 있어가지고 다 된두야 돼. 된두하니 걔 내가 채세지 동네 남님이 주제세들 네 알아. 대외시티 담바타 규제 공부 시작을 들어봐. 규제 공부 전에 가서 메시지나 동네 체로도야. semdo nyane to nature to mission to nature to maresigerba that the never case agency rala never chung this and the never the case and kept send never the Jimmy never never at the Dunganam Mitsubacher and never the care to send Jimmy never some never check. So
this sort of bring it on kind of patience, just bring it on, no problem at all kind of patience. The point here is that these small things, these little things, which can start to upset one, by cultivating this kind of patience, which says, no, you just bring that on, make it bigger and bigger and bigger. By cultivating that state of mind, this kind of patience, which is being talked about here, and here it's summarizing it, where it says there is nothing whatsoever and so on. It's summarizing it, saying that through becoming more acquainted with these small harms, saying bring them on, one can really embrace fully even more difficult things.
That the name Cabet young Simki, Rubdang, new Micha Situ, 개바디 개바 친구기 람라 공기 제베 개바디시게 어디 개바 쪽이 좋아 동해양 서버제네 람라 동해 근데 중에 디 서버제네 이 랑게 셈디 rabdo 네 서버를 당마제네
Moving quite quickly here, you're on 18 now. There's the blood just in 17 and so forth. They're already on 18 now. And there it says Kebe. So it must be 19. Yes, wise. Even when the wise, it says, or the wisest, but that's a mistake, isn't it? Even when the wise, here the wise is specifically referring to those who have really learned this sort of Buddhist path and got used to it a lot. So those sort of people then, Kebade, Kebade? Kebade, no? Yeah. So these wise, those who are really familiar with the path, no. So it's saying then that those who are wise, those who are familiar with the path, those who have produced this thought that they'll be enlightened, this bodhicitta, and having done so, strongly have it, for them they can put up with, not just put up with, but say bring it on more and more and more when you get the trifling and then the stronger and more difficult things that they have to face. So that's what this is saying.
Shiva Nyamumba la bebe payers. Ane controller so to Nyamumba, Chimi Jiganamdo to Nyamumba, the Nyamumba la Tabar Jeva said, pay Tabe pay Nyamu Pong Alam Deva Chesona, pay careers and that and the Dinama Shiviere.
Okay, so
number Yugila. 유기 세나 너버망 내 탐지 체세네 시단나서 가져봐 내가 계지 보디 사마로라서 보시 다티 지 담부 쉬는 비도래
고다데 디샴스데베
디리 다게 시디 시바 뭐봉알아 베베 페이스
So at this point after this then what is dealt with in the text, it is, so you have these kleshas, cankas, afflictive emotions, which is to say, if you're angry, something is hassling you, right? So that's the pneumon, the klesha. Or if you have all sorts of thought projections, all sorts of ideas, these again are afflicting you. So here then what is taught is, what are the benefits from working to stop those, these being the things that cause you, or what are the benefits of stopping the anger and the conceptions? That's all. It's 19, I think.
No. Controller Sobatusugi, Nimbu Tichida, control Nimbu Gares and the Servadava. Servati, yes, control the Servani, you guess it, Hatami. Nay, Servati, control the Gavra Jevati, controller Sobet, Banja, Yamubanam, Nimbu, you gave a you gave it, Senate to me, never my asta, control Servatan, Servati. 강에 동에 인도 담바 콘도티 뭔지 교그가 다 콘도티 뭔지 맞죠 같아 방거야기 서버게 당도 린지 담바 강에 마부치그리스 강에 마부치그리디 딜레니 유 예수나 가르쳐 그래 딜레 예수나 아니 가르쳐 그래 Jena, both is.
Right. So here then you're talking about a fight. You're actually started a war, and the war is between, on the one hand, this anger and these projections, which one finds within oneself, coming up within oneself. That's what the war is being waged against. And what is waging that war is one's own forbearance or patience for those things which cause this anger and these different thought projections. Now, any war is extremely difficult to wage, and there's a huge amount of sorrow in it. And indeed, one will, here, don't forget, the battle is being waged by one's patience. So those being patient, those having patience, will indeed have all of the kind of wounds and the difficulties of those who fight. That's definite. But the great thing is when the battle is won, there's a real victory, and that person is truly called a heroic warrior.
아니 다 콘루다 서바니 탐미 서베토기 콘루 판버체는 디포응원에 있어 다디시.
So what you have here then is an example, and the example is exemplifying something. Now ordinarily when you have somebody in the military and with great bravery and force they kill somebody, they come home and they are said to be a hero. I'm not saying they are a hero, but ordinarily we say they're a hero. So that's the example. So using that as an example, we then can say, talking about the meaning, that the one who fights against their anger with this patience, when they kill that anger, is the true hero.
다디 하마 롤라 서바 오세디 다디 베 가르스 그래. 아니 디 가르스 그래. 주 바로 보세야지. 아니 세버디 아니 그런 게 마세네 남기 치도 그랬어. 아 말한도 게베 담아 치워라 봐. 게베 담아 치워 연습 바로 그 마세네 코치기를 했어. 네 롤레 청경에 세버도 집어래. 그 말이 있어. 그 그래서는 탄이 치기로 봐. 그런 게 세야지. 말이 있어.
So, what about though the ordinary hero who has killed somebody who is an enemy, and having killed that enemy, comes home and is a hero? What about them? The last line here, common warriors slay only corpses. So that common warrior, or that ordinary hero, slays only corpses in this sense, that person, or persons who that soldier killed, that person or those persons, they, by being human, are destined to die. So it's not really like some big thing that they cause the death of it, those people, that person, because that person is, as a person, destined to die. And hence, you can't really say somebody who causes death when something is destined to die is, in fact, a true hero.
다디네 나봐 동의기 얘기 개발시거든.
Youngster, so the number 5, because I'm not and they substitute. So number 5, we're in the middle here of subdivisions under which this text is being explained. And now we're at the 5th subdivision under which this text is being explained, and it's the detailed explanation of the benefits of being patient.
That's it. Share to me in the good facilities. When I run an area of the nature of Chimbuchitapsona, they made the Kangi mi pe nam pe le chi ba pe chi na chi chimbu chi kan de chi ne ta pu chi ta su na mi pu ko pe ti li sim ni ga ne shum du ba ni che rang na che tu su se du ri che sa ge che ba se ba chi se ya tu ni de ni ge che ba se ba chi se tu ne tu to in de ni sim gyo ni na che le su be te ba tu se tu ri.
So here, talking about the benefits, when you're looking at the benefits of being patient in a more extensive, more detailed fashion. Furthermore, suffering, 21, furthermore, suffering has good qualities. Through being disheartened with it, arrogance is dispelled. In essence, what happens, when you meet with somebody who's nasty, when you suddenly run into something which is really rough and hard, and it hurts, something terrible, right? And it doesn't just hurt physically, mentally, you really feel kind of like crushed. So that getting crushed, everyone goes around as an arrogant person, right? So it kind of gets a bit rid of that horrible arrogance one's always carrying with one as a human being. So that's a benefit of it.
Oh, did it? But I don't. And guess this. This Yamakin, Ishitum des. King Shitum de Kuranki to Jet, did Nasha Jebri. Now would a Shigu Yamarisum. Nana treating grace, Shigu grace. The equal church to Gerva. Down in the Belgian and pet the same being. Any true mathematical. Some of them not do them by she could in any church in Gerva.
No.
Yes, go at the Vasel, she said it in Daddy.
No. They came to Todrova. Yes, you talked in. No. So, yes, you talked in, the great meditator. Yes, you talked in. Came to talk. He, one of his students, got really sick. Really did fall ill. And was getting terribly, terribly upset as met with this very unpleasant thing, getting really sick. And Yeshitari said, hey, no, quite the opposite. Look, you're really scared you're going to die, right? Well, it's making you think you've had it, you're out of here, you're going to die. So look at the benefit of that horrible thing. It makes you think of something and pushes you into the Dharma, right? So that's the sense here in which this is being conveyed.
How cool about the ninja case? That angle to make it into the Rango Suna. Ni Shula. Now, son, storage in Asuna, and Shella, son at December, Gangi Chimbushi, Yeni cook. Gangi Chimbushi, Yari, some Nicola Yon Terva.
No.
Some number unity, so Shendal Sonia December. And he could not the Jabu, but Hamagos December. Because nice the Nami Dangiero.
No.
That's so now you need Gina. And of course, I'm not sure the Ganish Jews, the Colinatic Ganish Yaris Sangiva.
No.
Just any Delinigi Ganetili tend to be Niji Giveris, go up by the Niji.
So here, the next line. Compassion arises for those in cyclic existence. So you think you get a really terrible problem with your tooth, and the pain is excruciating. And that excruciating pain, through you having had a really terrible toothache, becomes something which you have an experience of. Having had an experience of a really terrible problem with one of your teeth, when somebody else is really complaining about an incredible toothache, you can have some feeling of empathy. You've been there before. And so this again is a benefit of these things. Suffering. No.
Tibagi Chavin Santa, to me, do Marva, and do me the Tibet, to make a carriage Chito Saneta, laying in Bagi. Cheverva, Chevetakun, and Tibal and Zimiati in Greece. Kanget Hay, Tibal, Kanget Sumarva, Kanget Suma, the Kanget, Canadian Buto Saneta, let me give a Chevel in Bierva. Janet Tibal and Zimiati in Greece.
And the last line here. Evil is shunned and joy is found in virtue. What this is the benefit of something horrible happening to you, or suffering, is when you really do face something horrible, you really are going through a terrible time. Well, that brings to mind where it come from, and when it's less than wholesome things that I've done, wrongdoing. And those wrongdoings give rise to this state in which one really is very, very upset. And therefore one thinks, really, I have to stop behaving in that kind of way. And thus there's a benefit in having to deal with those terrible things because they bring to mind, as it says here, evil or, wrongdoing that one has done before, because of course all horrible things or suffering comes from wrongdoing, and hence one stops it. And the last bit, and joy is found in virtue. So it's not just when one has these terrible times that one thinks they come from having engaged in some sort of activities which are less than decent. But it also turns one to this way of thinking too, that I, like everyone else, really likes it when things are going well and I feel happy. And that things are going well and I feel happy is coming from my having engaged in wholesome or good, decent deeds, decent actions. And so if I want to be happy in this lifetime and in any form of life I might find myself in the future, then I have to do wholesome, do virtuous deeds. And hence it leads one also to that way of thought. That's another benefit. And so you get the prayer, if you will, that you make in the Lama Chirpa, in the worship of your teachers, of your gurus. And the line is, may I be blessed to turn again those bad conditions into an actual path. In other words, the terrible things that happen, may they become the conditions for me to find even more deeply and strongly my way on this path. So that's being adverted to here.
동네기 되버들에 아니 가서 페이드가 동네 야부 삼백이나 아니 미주가 삼백이야. 미주가 삼백에서는 탈백고가 돌려고 아니 미도 탈백고가 좋아 띵거를 봐. 미주면은 탈봐야 말이야. 그래서 미주 계약이 아니 이 가래 기그레스는 강에 뒤체인도 전에 미주 삼백이 동네 bombalade Niju Sambaraba, Niju Sambasa, Tunge Gay Sambata, Drew Sambata, Tunge Sum Sambala Sabachani, Tunge Niju Sambati, Pimasam, Niju Sambaki, just a Tunge good penny de la Niju Sambaki.
So here in this context, in 21, where it says suffering has good qualities, of course, one brings to mind the tremendous benefit of the contemplation in great detail of suffering under the 3 categories and the 6 categories and the 8 categories, because, of course, one remembers that it is through bringing to mind, through qualifying, the states that one finds oneself in by these kinds of suffering, that the thought to get out of them, the renunciation as it's sometimes called, the thought to get out of suffering comes from thinking about things as suffering. And of course, unless you think of something as suffering, you don't have the thought to get out of it. You don't have the renunciation of it, as they say, the Ngenjung Sen. And without the Ngenjung Sen, without the thought to get out of it, you can't get to where you get out to nirvana or freedom. And so suffering, thought of in this way, has tremendous benefit.
Janju Sembanamki, Karasure, Dewan, Karasur, Dewan, Tunedus, Dewadus in Penaran to Dewasinity, Nigitewa, Segitewa, Lelutewa, but the one Mambayar to Sugi, and it to make Kangi Mambutin, Dewa to Sugi. 동네 출에 가지고 동네 아니 지 공주 제약 동네 아니 라마 군주를 때문에 동네 도수지 제가 뒤뒤 만부다 아니 저는 좀 만부세요 그래서 대화를 가르쳐 그래 대화를 차리 그 말이지.
So looking at oneself, and one sees that one really does go for the good experiences. You really like it when you drop off to sleep. You really like it when you're tucking into a meal. Saya dewa che. Suba dewa suba de.
La.
Dewa dewa saya dewa suba de.
Saya dewa che. Ini dewa che. I
would really like it when one totally kicks back, lets it all hang out, and is utterly lazy. One just loves that. But actually, those great feelings of happiness are no good. They're not going to work for you. So actually, the suffering that you get when you really try to do some meditation, when you actually worship your guru, when you try to serve your guru in a decent way, it's hard, isn't it? I mean, it's really hard, isn't it? When you've got to sit down and do your prayers, when you've got so many of these things that you have to get together in order to live a sort of a spiritual, religious life, to be in accord with the Dharma. It's not easy. You suffer. But that suffering has a purpose. So there's good in that suffering. it's purposeful, whereas the pleasure, which seems good, has no purpose and harms you. So
Sanje tu nyingi yari, juju zamba seba chingye bachila du, ane di tangdulan mesiba mebache, di tangdulan marina, ane sanje janju seba tu gigirwa, ane cheba chodu gyuwa.
So I think that somebody really puts you down in a really hurtful way. It goes right into you, right? But if you put up with it, you don't just put up with it, but you kind of take it on in a positive way, then all of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas are really happy. You work for them and you please them. And you yourself stay happy. So it's much better that way.
I'm sorry. Makes you so happy. Mary.
Did it? Shangi Chidu Mala Chesina, Yerba. Shangi and Chishu and doing Yerba. Or doing it to Sutandolana? Pink Decate. Sebe Paji, Churta Tuba. Sanjeka, Syndicate, Wrangling, Jebuse, Sanjay Tugi, Jajus and the Tugi.
So just think, somebody slaps you. Somebody, somebody actually slaps you, Somebody really just bad mouths you in the most terrible way. And you somehow hang on and you can deal with it. First of all, first of all, the Bodhisattvas are extremely happy. You do something in accord with the Dharma. You are patient.
Kangeti Dandolana, Dandola Sigriba, Kangeti Susuna, Dandolariba, Dandola Suna, laying better say.
So the first one, when you really say, bring it on, you're coming from the sense of bring it on, that's not a problem for me. Then, first of all, it came because you did something unwholesome before. That's the result of that. You've got rid of it. That's the first thing.
Yeah, that is the pain Kanga Deliari.
Yeah.
So there's Sujevat Sejerba.
Yeah.
Sebe pain, Dele Dandulans and any Chimas Karasure Sujeva.
Yeah. It's a cause for future beauty. It's a cause for the Bodhisattvas to rejoice. These are the benefits that you get from that patience, from forbearing, from having that feeling of bring it on when those sort of things happen to you. Tandalam.
That is the Shashan did that. Depends, just a Tersa, Sebastian catching Shibi.
No.
That is dinner to get down and Sebastian.
No. So this forbearance, which in essence is this sort of attitude, bring it on, bring it on, bring it on. It's incredibly important nowadays, isn't it? Really is an important thing to be cultivating nowadays.
Any Lojong Gangolo, any so Karasue, to learn Tang Sudan doing really.
No, so
just Sebastian to do the.
when you think of mind trainings, the whole mind training literature, really it's incorporated in this patience of bring it on, I can deal with it, no problem, bring it on, bring it on.
That is. That is children is in the Sebastian.
No, so children listen to the Shamla.
Okay.
So we'll go on from here to, it's called patience, but what it means is understanding. And so understanding reality, so tolerating the real. When you actually definitively understand what's real, that's also given the name patience, the third of the three patiences. It has the name patience too, but it's a certainty about reality is given the name patience.
That is the Chiba so to make it say Dirve.
Never task can take the so they couldn't keep it up with June. Shonde can absorb it, give it a system. They did it.
Yeah. That didn't man did to wear. Yeah, to me, combining Yamangi, Gaudum Shinto Chadis. To make it Nimi send the Yendeni Rangi. Rani to make it on the Turishing D. Jue, I get them. What that did much. That number.
So they
Chua Jena Subecula, Ralebe, Rawaje Mahimbatam, Rawaje Giku, Rabatum, let's get the machi.
so it's
Tower the Teresha, Chibala Sobe, Chibala Sotunigi, Junicilla, Metua. In my subject,
No, so she just come to money, market money, and we'll find the verse slowly. The verse in our text which begins this discussion, get to in a moment. But the point is here, if one gets into this state of being upset, somebody's upset. And here, what you're talking about is having a look at the somebody who's upset and seeing that somebody is not there. And so when that somebody's not there, you're seeing the reality of the absence of that somebody, and the absence of that somebody, that which is certain about that is given the name patience here. You can see why. It's also called because it gets rid of the problem in this way. No.
Parade Dalan Parade Dalan never chebe, no resource. That under to me, Gangete into Tamba, Sabachebury, just says one. That did that in the Chiba Lasso, Dunegi, Junior Chilla, Metroar, Senior Number, Kitty Toes, Thought did it do it.
Some danger. Tanya Masonde. Tanya
Chiba.
Sakata together in the case of Kedebe.
Chiba more carried the Tataji Chisa. Chibalasos, Chibase,
Tibera, notice.
Nature, Metro.
Yeah. Do you know what it is?
I'm just guessing and poking around.
It's here it is. No, it is 22. As I do not become angry with great sources of suffering, 22. As I do not become angry with great sources of suffering, such as jaundice, then why be angry with animate creatures? They too are provoked by conditions. So this begins the absence of the somebody who's there, so to speak. So,
That is subject. Harvey Dala never cheated twice. That is it. To me, can change when so good celebrity.
yeah.
Is so to marry. Harvey never cheated. Just a deal part twice. Don't answer.
No. So the line of thought which takes you from what was being discussed just before to this is there's that person out there who is bad-mouthing me, who is really being bad to me. There's that person out there. And so that person out there then becomes the focus, this person out there. And so you're looking at the person out there and beginning to deal with just what is it, that person out there. So,
no, that the Trodi Maris, Shella Trodi Maris, Caressina, Chibala Subes, Chibala Sube, Chamanube, Trubetungi, June, Chimbus, that Chibati, Chibala Subetuso, to make it our
no.
Nunchi Pegas on Buti,
Yeah.
to make it our
No.
Just an Nati. To make June Chimberes, Lund, the Tibet, the Pegasia. In the Della Metro, send you, with a solid trot. Digmaris. Chona, I'm not to select trouble.
So, and here, so it's what you're thinking about, this other person's hurting me, and why is it absurd to focus on this other? Because you take now the notion of getting sick. And when you get sick, you're sick because of, say, an imbalance in one of the so-called basic humors or one of the basic elements which make up a body. And the cause of the sickness is either that imbalance in the tipa, in the bile, or the imbalance in the air, the wind, or the imbalance in the phlegm, and so forth. But so to be really upset when you get sick is berserk. If you're going to get upset at being sick, get upset at the thing that's causing you to get upset. It wouldn't make sense to be upset at getting sick, but you should get upset at the thing which is making you sick. So similarly,
that the Chibala Subetusu to Maris, young Kajiki. The Garadas in a king around me, but King around me, but you not totally Maris. He can't have the trouble, he said.
But somebody was saying, that's absurd. No, don't be so silly. I mean, nobody would fly into a rage at an imbalance in the physical. Nobody would fly into a rage because that comes about because of particular causes and particular conditions. It doesn't have some intention.
Then Gansale Trump, and Gansale Trodi is level.
No.
That is Gansale Trump Midivatas, the Dagan, the Dagungan, Gengi Gulls, Gansaki, around never chiati, Gengi Guinacheris, Crown Roya Maris.
No.
When a Gasadi around the Chichitamba, Caressa Chishuati, Condo Geni, Lamsan, wrong never Chenishubiarva.
No.
Condo Magina, who a Casati, Nambu, never maturity. Condo want to Makiba Negasu, never Chigmarva. Condo want to go into never Chigara. Cola Roya Mari, Condo Ongi Cheverva.
Because that's just the most stupid thing. Nobody in their right mind would think that some physical thing coming about because of particular conditions is something which would correctly provoke the response of getting angry at it. Well then, this other person out there who was really very, very insulting, who really did something nasty to you, that's a totally different ballgame. Not like that, not at all. Because that person out there, let's say they said something terrible to you or they really harmed you. Why did they do it? What was the condition? And the condition was because they were really upset. They were angry. There was anger or something like that in their mind. So the thing to get angry at would be the condition, because that person, like the physical thing, which is just there through causes and conditions, that what they're doing is similarly just there through cause and conditions.
That's 아니 베나스 멘두신도스 베나스디 아니 베나 티베나라 소바투수 랑드 디그 마르바 멘두신도양 깨참에 온게 아니 내도 좋아르바 기나시 아니 셰달라 소바투수 양 깨참에 온게 네 가사딜라 멘두베 가사 라와메바 never check the is.
And it's not just that. You know how, when you get sick, the particular causes of that sickness in the physical world, the imbalances or whatever they are, they come about quite through the coming together of particular cause and conditions. And it's similar with this person over there who is being so nasty. It's simply through a certain coming together of cause and conditions that this feeling that person has, this upset that the person has, comes about. It's just coming about in the same way through a concatenation of events, cause and conditions. Nothing different to the conditions that give rise to that imbalance. This is the example.
다시 저런 초기에 가사들을 줘야 말이지. 너무를 초기에서 너무 콘트들을 초기에서. 콘트 온기 아니 그런 매번 미팅이 내가 제발 봐. 딱 저는 콘트를 초기에서.
So when the conditions obtain, then what happens on account of those conditions comes forth without what comes forth having any say in the matter. The conditions cause it to happen. So that person over there who is causing such a problem, if you're gonna get angry, you should get angry at the conditions, the anger in particular, which being there, without the person having any say in the matter, causes that harm. One should get angry at the anger, not at the person, therefore.
that control 처리기 말했을 거야. control 되게 내가 자원 되네. 아니, 내가 자원 말했어. 가사한테 control 자원 자원 되네. 아니, 내가 자원. control이 그 control이 교회랑 메시지 그걸 가사한테 내가 진두지. 야 말했어. 어째서 control 처리기 말이 내가 진이 가사한테 처리기 했을 거야.
And then the person sort of inside thinks, yeah, but let's get real here. You can't really get at that anger. The one I can get at is that person. And so the one I should really let have it is the person, because you can't really let the anger have it.
이제는 이 가사들의 처리기 말이지. 가사들의 처리 미리 가르치네. 그 담보군의 건강원도 뭐 주군에 내가 지자고 삼대야 말이지. 컨트롤 존이 뭔지 존에 남서 내가 제발해봤어. 그 건강원도 뭐 주군에 그 내가 제고 삼대야 말이지. 아니 가사들의 처리기 말이. 그 그래서는 컨트롤 온게랑 해봐. 디카르스 그래. 내가 제발. 건강원도 뭐 주는 그 내가 제야 말이지. 말와.
So actually, it doesn't make sense. and it just doesn't make sense, that response, because you want to get back at that person because they flew into a rage, they were angry, and they came at you and did something nasty to you. But if you took out the anger, if you took away the upset from that person, then they wouldn't be doing that to you. They wouldn't be causing those problems to you. It's only because of the upset and the anger that's happening. So it's absurd to be directing one's response towards that person, because that person, absent having gotten enraged, absent having gotten terribly upset, doesn't do the nasty things to you. So it's absurd, therefore, to hurt them. You should hurt the thing that causes them to hurt.
자시 마삼장 기분남니 기나르 초스 어디 담보고네 콘도 제보삼 삼야마라 콘도 느끼는데 좀봐 라오메바 콘도 제브라바 어디나시 초아라바 어디나시다 초아라 자시 마삼장 기분남니 기나르 초스 제버 자시 마삼장 초아딘 디시 제브레케 콘두기기 is 담보군의 콘두기기 is 말씀하지는 콘두기 영어에서 깨명버려. 이게 제사 아사 코랄의 초리 말이스.
And so here 24 then, talking specifically to this point, that person over there, it just doesn't make sense to direct one's anger towards them. Without thinking I shall be angry, people become angry. And without thinking and without thinking I will produce myself, anger itself is produced. Which is to say that when that person over there starts to hate you and be nasty to you, the person gets into that state without deciding to do it. It happens to them because of what's going on inside them. And similarly, when that anger, that dislike and hatred gets up in that person over there, that anger and hatred that gets up inside that person over there doesn't decide I'm going to produce myself and start to feel the anger that I am. It just itself comes about through the causes and conditions. So it is absolutely absurd to direct one's anger to that person over there.
다들이 예바타다 깨는 중에 라메바니스 다니 라메 강내 근데지 중성에 뜻한 라마도 좋아할 말이스 깨는 데는 좋아했어 라마도 배추야 말봐 제가 예바 근데 중에 강내 근데 지체비네 그러니까 그걸로 깨는 데는 라메 좋아해 솔직히 라마도 깨봤잖아야 말이스 다디 예바 지니 탐제당 디바 넘버 나토바 디그 깽게 또래 중 라이바 마이노스 다디.
So whatever the unpleasant situation, whatever the state which is not very good for one that's come about and that one finds oneself embedded in, all of those states, all of those situations totally coming about because of a coming together of a number of conditions and causes. They're not there independently operating by themselves like they feel to be. There's nothing there which is independently, inherently, and intrinsically there as what it is. It comes about because of a number of conditions. And on that account, therefore, whatever this bad situation, all mistakes there are probably, and all the various kinds of evil. Any terrible situation, whatever it is, they all come about through the force of conditions, and they do not govern. They're not there intrinsically through their own nature themselves.
예바 강가도 깨초발을 때는 깨와 라운드 깨와 말이죠. 깨초바디야 라운드 기중한 말이죠. 깨초바디야 아니 그래서 그래. 그걸 깨바 자시 셈바 내바. Giving is Jenny. Getting giving is get to the giving is Jenny in December. Yamaris. Began, I give me, I make is. He gave, I guess, she. That is, can't over to Sui. What in this Jenny? Rawa Yamaris, can't tell you to them, but can't over cry. No matter Jenny kill this. Just that, I'm shooting their own case around me. I said, Jig could out to give a tea Yamaris. So I want to give a this.
So, whatever this situation that one finds oneself in, so there's somebody over there that one really feels animosity towards, and so on and forth. All of these bad states. It could be any situation, whatever the situation, the bad one, the unwholesome one, the evil one, whatever the thing it is, they're all of them coming about because of a particular coming together of conditions which all those concatenation of events which come together to make that happen, they are what is there to make it happen. But it's not just that the event itself is only there through the power of all of these, or the situation itself is only there through the power of all of these different events, different conditions coming together. If you take all of those events or those conditions which necessarily come together so that one is in that state, all of those together or separately, there's nothing those things I'm going to get together and cause this to happen. There isn't any intention in any of those things. They come together. The causes which cause this state, they themselves only come together through, again, another concatenation of events or causes. And thus one is finding that there is nothing anywhere which you can find to be independent. All of them, Michelle, are other-powered. They are there. Not independently. That's the next verse then. These conditions that assemble together have no intention to produce anything, and neither does their product have the intention to be produced.
That in just part of the never cheva samba, you tend to Jenny, Toa, give a resource. That is never cheva, you tend to Jenny, part of the never cheva samba, you tend to Jenny, never change to somebody. Any could never change just any could Casati to be in Cheva try.
No.
It's a name to be a Mari. Samba come you in Mari. Game Matona, never tell you somebody in it. Game Matona, never ching Marva. Just a game to in it on never. Because somebody did Maris.
So, going back then, this whole discussion comes about from having that person over there who really had it in for you, who really was nasty, who really decided to be nasty, who had that idea they were going to be nasty. And it's that notion of somebody thinking something and having it in for you, which is really being focused in on here. There isn't any thinking about it. There isn't any focusing, I'd say that there isn't any intention in that person over there. What's happening comes about because of coming together of events or conditions. Those conditions cause something to happen. And even those conditions which cause that to happen themselves come about through coming together of another concatenation which causes it. So this whole notion of some independent sort of thing out there which is thinking something to come and hurt me, it just is not there. It's just not independent like that.
I never change, never change the any Karasure. Around the Badavici to chase of surgery. Couldn't never change the Pena. Any Karasure. Denzu darling the street to combassete. Mama, Joanna Marangi. To me, 다포베 동행이 다포베 뱅디마도나 아니 첸딜라 동행이 다포 마리스 제사 첸딜라 동행이 다디 난 포야디 겨나마 니 카르수게 다포세 뱅디랑 그 주차 겨나마랑 랭이 바사로 랭이 바사베서 겨디가니 동행이 비중을 어디에서 가르치게 동행이 랑기 사베 레기 되버바 랑기 사베 레기 되부티 랑데 미버바 디미 겐디 파르부티 제버바
So you have a notion of a target. You are the target. What are you the target of? Of something which is going to land on that target. It's going to strike the target. What's going to strike the target is the suffering which one has. That suffering happens when the target is struck. And what is propelling whatever the suffering strike, how to say? So where is it coming from? It's coming from something wrong one did, say, in an earlier form of life. And that thing that one did wrong earlier on, then you now today, or you then, are the target on which the suffering, which was caused by that earlier, lands. And the actual person over there doing these horrible things to you, that's just the condition which enables that thing to hit the target which it was destined to hit. That's all the other person is, just the condition to cause that to happen.
Yeah, that is true.
Any questions there?
Yes. So if the person spent days and plot that they conspire about hurting you, that means that it just doesn't come about. He's just plotting it. He just like think about it.
That's rigmarole. Careers 전부 자치연으로 와. 근데 그 한테 가르쳐가 봐봐. 꽃님아, 내님아, 둔다네 둔다 다네 다. 근데 나 뒤책이 인구 상품 못 당겨와. 근데 상품 못 당겨는 내가 와. 그래서 그 상을 못 당내 책이 여러 왔어.
Samlut Mambutane, Jema Tona, somebody turned to Mara. Jema Tona, Jem Toga Ongita, some awesome name we are. Jema Tona, some name we are. Jem Toga. Jema Tona, somebody did when I do Jalamabuchi do Vierba, somebody Jensan Matona. Jala Jungu Marva. Sergi Kambachi is some Tane during some Tantini. Gemachona, Sergi Kambachi.
So actually, regardless how long the person does or doesn't plot, the entire period of the plotting itself can only remain to the extent that there are particular conditions underpinning it going on. It doesn't just go on of itself. It needs to have certain conditions to be there. For example, you might have the thought that you want to build a certain kind of wonderful serve, a golden palace, a golden palace, so to speak, a golden home or something. But you are, just by thinking it, even if you think it for a long, long time, it's not going to come about. Just thought doesn't bring it about. It needs to have all sorts of conditions met in order for it to come about. That's what causes it to happen.
Oh, teachers are get somebody story. Get also Masam name here. Around the Garesina, to get to Giamari, to make to make the Majuna Sangurete, to make Yungutiba. yani manju tunga majuna samye diari dewaji chuna samye yari kya machona dewa yungi amara tunga mebeta dewa yungi dewa so kya choya tere
the plotting really is irrelevant when you actually think about it. We get hit by something just out of the blue. We don't know when terrible things are going to happen. They come because particular conditions are met. The fact that somebody here isn't plotting is really not a big issue here.
I have a question. When Rinpoche mentioned that, we need to cultivate the essence of forbearance, like bring it on the suffering, it seems to me like more of the essence of martyrdom. More like here I am being a martyr.
Really? I didn't know how to say that in Tibetan. That's
Here,
good.
bring it on. Here I want to suffer. I don't mind. I welcome suffering. It's like more like a martyr.
I know what a martyr is. I don't know how to say it in Tibetan. Tunda did it.
One who likes to suffer.
Inchi Sikti did it. Martyr Senken did it. The Peshe Tunda. Can you explain what a martyr is?
To me, a martyr is
sacrificing.
Yeah, sacrificing, and also like
I did trouble do. Then did trouble do. I can't tell like you cover it. Basic chin and did what? Chimenyamle chebe kabla. Chimenyamle chick check. And I did the muscle yang chick. Lasso yang chick. Yang de and it cut to yin me chicky zo casagre. Dobama kanga chick yorwa. Dobama kanga. Kajaka pananga chegare samne. Yang turned out never trouble. And the Jimin Yamlin checky chena. And it do not day. Don't know, cut luck you, Michelle.
Shumaya,
The Nissan the Karayongi Yorisana, the La Yiju Yorwa, La Yiju Koro. Not so Kangaki Duna. Kong Tola Koron Duna Kase Nob Ne, not so Duna never drove it. Dinashin. Chisa, Tandalambe. Server day, turned down maybe Duna Laya, keep trouble into ways.
Ati dashi chenpo shibu yares. Dando lembe tungeti. Tunge dando malena. Ane tunge lo shumne. Ane kaya me chilwa.
No.
Shumbe.
Notice.
Kange se tu maris. Shumu sona kange di se tu ya mari. Dangdolana kange di dangdolana kange di se tabshi ya.
Yeah, no. Actually, it's not martyrdom. You can't find within yourself the ability to put up with things unless you get that attitude, bring it on. By getting the attitude to bring it on, you find within yourself the ability to bear it. So the ability to bear it is what you're looking for. You're trying to cultivate forbearance, patience, the ability to bear it. And you can't do that without bring it on, that attitude when you meet with these things. So it's not martyrdom. It's more you want it because you have to be able to bear it and you have to learn how to bear it. So you want it to come on, so you learn how to bear it.
Tunge dando manene tunge ingurvas. Dando lenshane 그 동네 단둘링기 메시지는 동네 마음이 말해.
It's not like
그 단둘링기 민도 나 누구면 쓰기 말해. 그 용 그냥 동네 단둘 말해네 동네 이기로 봐.
it's not like
여기서는 아니 그냥 제가
it's not like you can say, no, I'm not going to be a martyr, and you don't suffer, right? You're going to have the problems just the same, whether you say you want to be a martyr or not. You're going to have the problems. So the whole reason to cultivate this bring it on, is so the reality of the problems that one faces, one doesn't get upset when one faces them. So that's what it's trying to get across here.
동네 준비도 막 당도 말하면 이제 심제 되게
Otherwise, you just kind of like, if you don't cultivate that bring it on, you just get really depressed when things go wrong.
핑기 말했어. 아니 쌤 마시오. 아니 나자 일에 쳐로. 아니 쌤 나디와체. 안돌아샤나 강에디 커도 강에디도 아니 강에 마부지 고격이야. 커도 강에디 마시나 예수를 강에 마부지 용구야.
If when you're having to deal with some unpleasant situation, you don't come at it with the attitude, I'll just bring it on, I can handle it. Even, how to say, later on, when you get something even worse than that, there's no way you're going to be able to bear it. It's by when you're dealing with things, saying, no, I bring it on, then when you meet, as you definitely will, even more difficult things later on. So say you're a little bit sick and you get really upset by it and get depressed by it, then no, bring it on, because later on you can really get something else for you, right? And it'll get your mental forbearance, your patience up.
Yeah, but when you said bring it on, it's like if I get a headache, I'm not gonna say, okay, give me cancer.
Yeah, go nana yaar, kuch mara na sa paro cheese hai ke de maro.
De Maria. Koi. Andele ingu marwa. Nal yo koyati. Nangi yo koyasi shabdi ingu marwa. Kanga chu ingu marwa. Jinglane kanga ingu marwa. Le yora chene ingu marwa ko leje se yeti.
What you get's a variable of the karma you're carrying. Not a variable of what you're saying, bring it on. So that kind of, I can deal with it attitude isn't saying, I'm going to get it. No, what you're going to get, you're going to get, but it's going to allow you to have forbearance when it comes.
Also, I have another question.
Yeah, I teach.
Also, what I got is the person who mistreats me, I should not get upset. I can understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But not doing anything or saying anything back is more like being, like being a doormat. Doormat, yeah.
No. This is like a baro podela, karasagre. Never much. I get to that. Do you know? But karasagre. Go gi tila. Damn dabuchi. Sha karachene something. Did this devil mean do? This la porwa.
Did the 탑시 지교에는 지역으로.
Yeah.
아니 바로 내가 맞게도 제 탑시 그런 템벌 탑시 지교에는 지역으로 봐.
No. Well, yeah, that goes without saying. You're not just supposed to lie down there. If there is something effective which can be done to deal with a situation, and then one will apply that method. One will do it. I mean, you're not just there's a punching bag.
The 계급 속에 그냥 데리봐. 잡아는 팀이 알아봐. 팀대 개와체서는 팀 맞잖아. 코리아 강에 마무치 체계하러 쉬우라.
No.
제고야. 대체 팬도를 봐. 그러나 삼방에 버제바 말이야. 그 지기 미리도 제스는 콜라 팀 제는 아니지 공부도 제고야. 이야 콜라 팬야래. 그 그것도 맞지부터 샤샤 코르트리 님발랑 쇼치네 아니베 그 쇼를 강에 침부 쳐야지 여러분.
An example here would be the bhikshus, the monks and the nuns. So let's say that you have a person in the order who does something not in accord with their code of conduct. Well, it's not by, well, they just did something not in accord with the code of conduct. It doesn't matter, no. In strict accord with the particular part of the code that they have broken. That infraction will cause will be the cause of a particular what would you call it? Not punishment, retribution, something that they have to do. It's not that you just leave it in that sense. And why? Because there's a benefit from that, but it's not outside that kind of way of thinking. So that's my example.
Yeah, that is. Dashi.
He's outside.
Yeah, gaja shagada.
No.
Yes.
Let's leave it there today, okay?
Thank you.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gary?
Gareth.
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 Thank you,
Gareth.
Gareth.
Thank you, Gareth.
So much, Gareth.
동타야 지난기야. 동타.
둘다디 그들에. 다시 다리 둘다 있는 거.
동타 요 말때.
저리야.
So there's no tennis today.